Before we get carried away with too much modeling, what's important to remember is setting up the workspace properly. So we had a look at the layers panel here, okay? And just remember that if you can't see the layers panel, it's this little pie shaped piece here, or like a cake, okay? Layers of cake here, okay? Um, there's a properties window here. We're gonna have a look at that in a bit, but we looked at that. The other thing we have to do is we have to set up sort of our document. Okay. Now, when we opened Rhino to start with, we just clicked on the architectural large feet template, and that's what it's going to be set to. But maybe we didn't. Maybe we forgot to set the template, or maybe we're working in feet, and then it turns out that we actually have to be working in meters or vice versa. We can actually change that. And the way we change that is we're going to type in units, and it's going to pull up this page here, okay? It says model units. Now we can change that, as I said. We can be working in millimeters, microns, mils, which is a 1,000th of an inch, okay? Inches, feet, so on and so forth, right? You get the idea. We could be working in parsecs. You know, we could be doing major, massive architectures. Not likely, but we could. Okay. But for the sake of our operation, we're going to make sure that that's set to feet. I generally don't touch the absolute tolerance. Okay. I think it's probably just better that we leave this until you get a little bit more advanced. Distance display, I actually like to go with feet and inches, okay? And then you can actually show the display precision. So in architecture, 1 1/4 of an inch is certainly precise enough. And the way I think about this is, how precise am I relying on my contractors to be, right? I don't want my contractors to have the headache of, doing things down to 128th of an inch. So I think 1 1/2 inch is probably more than enough. We could even set that to 1 foot, but I'm going to keep it at 1 1/2 an inch. Okay. The other thing that we could do while we're here is, if you look over on the left side here, we can actually alter our grid, and that's what this is in the background. You can see this grid here. Okay. So I could deselect that. I could not show the grid lines. And sometimes I actually prefer to not model with the grid in place, but sometimes it can be a very valuable tool. But we can also set our grid to 1 foot increments, okay? And let's see here. So it says minor grid line spacing every 1 foot, and that's okay. We could set it to 10 feet if we wanted to make large objects, and we could set our major lines every 100, or so on and so forth. Okay. Snap spacing, this is valuable. So if we're creating things in feet, we can set our snap spacing to 1 feet, or maybe it's got to be at 1 inch or something like that, right? Or 1/10 of a foot. This is where you would alter that. And in fact, let's just switch down to let's change our units here, and let's go to our model units, and let's go into inches, because we're actually going to be doing a lot of work in inches. So I'm just going to set that to inches. And I think, let's see, 1 and 1. So in this case, if I'm working in inches, I probably want to keep it in fractional view for display precision. And don't worry about this if this is not pertinent yet. But this is where I would set that. And this refers to, if you're trying to figure out the length of something, it's going to give it to you fractionally. So 1 1/2 of an inch. Okay. I might also make it a little bit more precise to 1 1/16 of an inch if we're going to go that small. And then I come up here to our grid, and let's change that. Let's go. Here I want to change my grid over, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually type in 1/12 for feet, okay? And that's going to give me, at every inch, it's going to give me a line. And then major lines every, let's go 12 minor grid lines, and you can change this depending on your preferences, but for me it's a little bit more valuable to go at a minor grid line for every inch and a major grid line for every foot, essentially, okay? And I'm just going to hit enter. and it says model units change from foot to inches, scale model by 12. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to accept that. And in this case, it might be hard for you to find where the heck anything has gone, right? So in this case, we're trying to zoom out. Remember our command? Let's go Control A. Let's type in ZS. And here is our object. Now I want to move this object back. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to use the move command. Okay, and I'm just going to type in move here. And you'll note it says point to move from, but you'll note that my cursor is not really locking on anything. Okay, and that's going to be a bit of a problem. I want my cursor to lock on a point somewhere here, because otherwise I could be over here, and who knows how far away that's sort of locked. Okay, so we're going to use something called snaps here. And if you look down on the bar here, these are called your object snaps, your O snaps, okay? And if you can't see them, just click on the O snap and this will come up. But I always like to have end, point, mid, intersection, and I think that's everything for now. Sometimes I'll have center enabled, sometimes I'll have near, but really I find these ones, end, point, mid, and intersection, the most useful for me. So now if I run that move command again, now you will see that something's happened, right? I've got these little ends, comma, int here. So it's actually saying that it's locking onto those points. The other thing that you'll notice is that these lines start to come up, and these are called your smart track lines, okay? And your smart track can be a valuable tool because it's actually helping you sort of establish spatial relationships. If I deselect my smart track, which sometimes you want to because sometimes your smart track can get in the way, just know that it's down here. You can click it on and off, okay? So let's imagine we want to move this back. We've got the move command enabled. I want to move it. I want this corner to be at the origin. So I'm going to click on this, and I'm just going to type in 0, 0, 0 again, and hit enter. Oh, we lost sight of it, so let's just go Control A. Let's go ZS. And there we go. Okay, so now it's brought us back to that. Now, when we did our wacky gumball moves here, we've sort of created this really it actually looks like it's kind of askew, to be honest. Or no, I guess it's just rotated. So let's try to get this thing back on the normal, okay? And so we know the normal up is, the blue arrow by default goes up. So that means I have to move this again. Okay, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna put this back at the origin. Hit enter to accept. Now I'm going to rotate this back. So let's just do rotate, and I'm going to do rotate 3D. I'm going to set the axis because I'm going to rotate along this axis. And you'll note that it wants to snap on ortho here, on the orthographic plane. Okay, so now I've brought this sort of back to normal. And this is going to be useful kind of moving forward with our shapes. Okay, so that'll be the next video. We're going to learn how to sort of scale this at different proportions.